Oh, it's kind of a sad day here today, folks. Take one last look at this truck here, because it's the last time we're ever going to be seeing it like this. It started out as a wrecked and rusted 1953 Chevy truck cab and frame that we rescued from the scrapyard. And started out fairly promising. Built some new floors for it. We ended up sectioning the cab and doors 3 inches, channeled the cab 1 inch, chopped the top about, I don't know, 3 inches or so, and fixed a bunch of horrible collision damage and rust, and started sectioning the hood. The further we got into this project, the harder it became to hide the fact that I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. Turns out building a custom vehicle is a lot harder than they make it look on TV. And when it comes right down to brass tacks and chicken snacks, best thing to do when you're in over your head is just give up and move on. So, today we're going to be erasing our mistakes with the Sawzall and other implements of destruction and making this thing disappear. You know, we had a few laughs, made a few new friends along the way, but at this stage, the best thing we can do is just put this thing out of its misery. Well, I was hoping to keep this as a running gag throughout the entire episode, but experience has taught me that the concept of a running gag simply doesn't jive with modern attention span of viewers. So before you all jump to the keyboards and grab your pitchforks, we are not scrapping this project. We're simply dismantling it so that I can remove the cab and finish all the welding on it so that we can start preparing it to fit on the new frame. Of course, that doesn't change the fact that I still have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but I do know that in order to go forwards with this project, we have to go backwards. I'll be the first to admit that this whole project started as an elaborate scheme to just simply get more views on YouTube. But it's kind of evolved from that, and it's no longer just about me, it's about all of you. You, the viewer, are all responsible for this project, and some of you are actually starting to become invested in it, and it apparently actually means something to you. So we're not gonna just let it die off. You know, I sure do appreciate all of you taking the time out of your day to watch these ridiculous videos of me building this terrible truck. I really do appreciate it, and just want to say thank you to all of you. And without further ado, let's figure out how we can disconnect this torque tube from the transmission. I done this before on another truck, but I forgot how I did it, so we're just going to start taking bolts out and hoping for the best. So I know we've been slacking off lately in the mung scraping department. I just thought it was really important to, you know, include some first-person mung scraping for all the enthusiasts out there. You won't find this on any other channel, I can tell you that. At least not the successful ones. Wow. The archaeology is just breathtaking. Oh. Perfect. I wish you could all be here to like experience this with me. You know, it's just, it's not the same seeing it on the camera, but it's the best I can do, you know? Like one of those things where you have to be there. All right. Well, I don't feel like crawling out of this thing again, so we're just gonna see if we can crack open the vault here. Oh yeah, now what?
Looks like there's still some mung deposits here that are holding us up, so release, you scoundrel.
Alright, well, I think I got this unit ready to disconnect from the transmission. I think if I just pull back, it should come out, maybe? I don't know. I'm a millennial, I'm sorry, I don't know, it's not my fault. Don't blame me, blame society.
Garbage.
Well, I'm not a mechanic, but I think the axle seals might have been leaking on this. Spiders aren't too happy about that. Well, I am having fun, aren't you? Doesn't have to be this way, you could cooperate, you know. Wooden brake line hold downs now available in the merch store. This is actually still good. Not necessarily for this truck. Well, actually, for sure not for this truck, but for a truck. Well, after some heat and working it back and forth and inventing new combinations of swear words, we managed to get this guy out finally. That's the good news. The bad news is most of the frame ended up on the floor. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, if the frame's that rotten, why don't you just break this thing off and save all the time mucking about with that bolt down there? Well, the one thing I know for sure is never underestimate the power of rust. You know, this frame might look completely rotted out, but believe it or not, it still had another good, I don't know, 10, 15 years of road life left in it, you know, providing you avoided potholes or violent collisions. Other good news is the spring bolts here are still perfectly reusable. This side needs a little putty and a little paint to make it what it ain't, but still got plenty of service life left in it, I believe. Now the shackles on these old Chevys aren't the same as they are on, say, a modern vehicle. There's a real special technique for removing these. And it's just that easy. I actually need to save these plates here that I managed to destroy with the grinder for my 35. These are just, these have these pins here which are just pressed into the ends, and they're not supposed to be in two pieces, actually. That's not not the way they came from factory, but that's the way they are after 70 years of abuse, would you believe. But anyways, these are threaded, and then the bushings are threaded, and they just kind of pivot on the threads. And eventually, well, it looks like rust got to this one, but I've never actually seen one of these break in two before. Usually the bushing just gets completely hogged out, but here's what these are supposed to look like. You can see the threaded bushing that goes in the perch, and then here's your pin, and that just threads in like that. You can see there's a grease thingy here. You can grease it on the end, and I mean, that just goes like that as you're going over bumps. And you know, I guess in theory, if you keep it greased, it's probably fine. I don't know. I think the problem is they never got greased, and then the threads just basically chew the bushing up to ribbons, and then it starts chewing into the perch, and then the spring and everything else. But GM used these for a long, long time. Not sure about the 1920s, but they used them in the 1930s, and on trucks up until I think 1959 had this style. There's your fun fact that nobody cares about. Oh no! Oh no! Well, we managed to do something. Not entirely sure what, but you know, we did it. Ain't no denying that. Now what? Looks like they just wedged a pin in here to take up the slack when they replaced the bushing. Obviously it had been run with a bad bushing for a while and it chewed away at the springs, so they just wedged a pin in here, which is all well and fine, except it protrudes out slightly, which makes it very difficult to remove, as we just experienced. What a fun time. Oh, it's the next day here and I just walked out to the garage. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I'm just kind of had to take a step back here. Like something's missing here. Like what did we get up to last night? What were we thinking? Leave a comment if that's ever happened to you. I guess we just gotta continue with the destruction. Like, I mean, damage is already done, so might as well finish the job. We're not quitters. I worked on a lot of these advanced design trucks, and I still hate working on them. I don't know why I even bother. I don't even like working on any vehicle. They're all terrible. What are you doing with your life? Some of you suggested when I showed that Pontiac parts car that we're using for the front suspension and the back end, that I try to put this on the Pontiac frame. And I was actually kind of thinking the same thing. So that's what we're going to try, is we're going to try to set it on there. But the second I have to start doing stupid stuff and, you know, hacking giant chunks of the floor and fenders out to make it fit, then we're not going to bother with that. But if it looks like it'll work, then we'll try it for sure. It doesn't take very long to set the cab on and then just to see. The original plan was just to use another stock advanced design truck frame. I have another one that's not rusted out. So if the Pontiac frame doesn't work, or it looks like I'm gonna have to do a bunch of stupid butchery to make it work, then we'll just stick with the original plan. But I think it's worth trying anyway. It's not like we're actually using this as a truck for like heavy hauling or anything. It's just more about, you know, the appearance of the thing. So it doesn't need a heavy duty frame. But I don't know where we're going with this. Get back to work, you idiot. All right, these are gonna live outside for a little while, so we're just gonna touch up this bare metal here a little bit. Oh wow, it even almost matches. Perfect.
Flow test.
Don't forget the edges. Get a lot of people asking about leaving stuff in bare metal here, and issues with it flash rusting, and that's just simply not an issue here. We live in a super dry climate, so this stuff can sit in bare metal in here. I've had stuff sitting for like over 10 years in bare metal, and it doesn't rust. So yeah, I don't put anything on the bare metal while I'm working on it, because it's just a waste of time. I just have to clean it off later, and it doesn't do anything. At least where I live, I know some places it's super humid and you gotta recoat stuff or it'll rust overnight or whatever. But not an issue here in Saskatchewan, at least not with this older steel. I did work on like a Porsche once, unfortunately, and like from the 70s, and like I swear, like every day it was whatever that metal was, it was garbage. So I guess it just maybe newer cars it's an issue, but certainly not an issue on this old stuff. Just letting the fenders get settled into their new home now. Should be fine. I wish the stuff would go back together as easy as it comes apart. But it never does. Not once ever. So next step is to pull the engine and transmission out of here. And before I do that, I just want to see if I can get this engine to spin over, or at least try one more time. We kind of gave up on it this summer when we looked in here and saw how Titanic-y it was. But I'm going to try to clean this up a little better and just see if we can bar it over. Originally the plan was to get it running, but at this stage I don't see the point of that. Whenever I do a will it run video, it completely tanks, so all the time and effort and money that goes into that is just putting good after bad. It's fine if I'm going to be using something and I need to get it running, but just getting it running for the sake of making a video on it is not worth my time on this channel. YouTube tends to typecast you, and it seems like I've been typecast for welding junk together and banging out dents. So, you make a video on getting an engine to run and nobody wants to watch it. I was told this engine ran, and I mean, they all ran at one point, but even if it did run, fuel pump was missing, carb was missing, it was just laying open to the elements, all the plug wires were on, and they drained the oil out of it. So like, if this was a good engine and they did have it running, you're not gonna rip all the parts off a good engine and drain the oil out of it. So I can only assume that this engine, maybe if they did in fact have it running, it was junk and they just ripped it apart and moved on to the next thing. And obviously if it was running, it wouldn't have run very well. It's obviously got some stuck valve action and whatever else, but I do want to try and get it to turn over again. Right now it's stuck. At least if I get it to turn over, I can sell it and get a couple bucks for it. Otherwise it's just basically scrap metal. Nothing else, this is a good serviceability test for all the firewall modifications that we did. Nice to find out if you can actually work on the engine, you know, before it's all finished and completed and painted and everything, and then you find out you have engine problems. In case you're new here, this firewall has been completely changed and modified and raised up, and all kinds of stuff has happened to it. And I thought when I modified it that I left enough room for the engine, but this is kind of the actual final test here. Wasn't it like that Boyd Coddington show or whatever where they built like a whole car and then they went to put the distributor in and found out that they didn't notch the firewall enough, you know, after it was painted? All right, well, you know, let me know if you can see what's going on here. Junk. This just isn't worth my time, you know, there's just so much mung in here, and it's just, this would all have to come apart to actually clean this properly. The side cover would have to come off, because I'm sure a bunch of it is drop down into these orifices here, and that's a bigger project than I have time for. So I think what we're gonna do is just put a bar on it, see if it'll spin over now, and if it spins over, then at least we know there's a chance for the bottom end, and you know, the rest of it could be somebody else's problem. It's certainly not going to run without a bunch of work, but could still be rebuildable possibly. So we don't want to give up on it just yet. Oh, it moves. Oh, hope that got caught on camera. Did you see that? You see the mess it made? Great. Holy Toledo. Put all that oil in there. Was it me? I think there's like a murder in here or something. All the way to the back wall. Great. Really? Oh, put it in there. I don't even remember putting that much oil in that one, but there it is. Not sure what's going on with the rest of these, but or what happened to the oil I put in, because I do know I put a bunch of oil in the rest of these, but I guess there you go, it turns over, so that's something. We got one stuck valve here for sure, and this one feels a little sticky, but it's not like stuck, but this one's obviously stuck at the bottom. So there's this old timey trick I read where if you fill the cylinder up with rope, you can actually use the piston to push it back up. So I thought, well, even though we're not trying to get this running, you know, why not waste some more time on it? Sure. Slow news day today. Just a guy in his garage feeding rope into a crusty old engine. No particular reason, just to waste time. Still taking it. Probably where we find out there's like a giant hole in this piston already. How much are you gonna take, you scoundrel? Oh, got some resistance. Must be doing something. Breaking stuff, maybe? That's gonna wreck something. That is just gonna wreck something, I'm thinking. Neat idea, but I'm thinking we're just gonna end up bending or breaking something. That must be a pretty stuck valve. Rope trick is a fail. Cute idea though. I don't know if you can see in there. Looks like maybe you can. Just shine a light in there, and it looks like that valve looks like something that come off the Titanic. So, you know, even if we got this thing to close again, it doesn't really matter because the head's got to come off one way or the other. Because that is not a runner, I don't think. That's heavy on the mung there. Now that I kind of look at things and did some thinking, I actually do believe that they probably did have this engine running at least briefly. Obviously, the one valve was stuck down. Well, I mean, it was originally closed, but then they either forced it or whatever, and then this happened. And the valve got stuck down, and you can see here where this was just like absolutely hammered out like that. I mean, with this push rod being all bent the way it is and all hammered out here and the valve being stuck down and everything just kind of bouncing around, this would have made quite a rattle or clatter, I would guess. So that would kind of explain why they stole parts off of it. They probably just thought this was, you know, oh, it's making bad noises, on to the next one. We'll find some sucker to buy it. And they did, so worked out just fine for them, I guess. But I don't know. I think it's actually worth keeping this engine around. I don't have time to pull the head off or the pan off to see if anything else is ruined in it, but like this might be the only problem here. So obviously we got to pull the head off and we got to clean everything out, but I'll save all that for another day when I have time. But I think it's worth it to keep the engine around for, if nothing else, it's worth it for spare parts. And it saves me the hassle of trying to deal with mouth breathers. If I go to sell it, like what am I going to get for this engine? Like, I don't know. If I'm lucky, $100 and waste half my day, they show up with like a Kia hatchback and like, oh, I thought you'd have a way of hauling it or delivering it to my house for free or whatever. And then, you know, back and forth. And it just ain't worth it. You know, at that stage, I might as well scrap it, and it's kind of a waste to scrap it if it still has some usable bits on it. So I'll just trip over it for another year or two until I get sick of it, and then we'll take it all apart, find out it's ruined, and then we'll scrap it. Disclaimer here, if it's not already painfully obvious, I don't know a single thing about engines or mechanical things. So feel free to leave a comment and let me know what you think's going on with this thing. I mean, other than, you know, what we've already diagnosed. Almost forgot to hook the plug wires back up. I forgot to disconnect something. Uh-oh. Amateur hour. There. No big deal, just the clutch. We got her. Probably would have been smart to clean all this debris out of here so we could actually get this engine pulled out of the way, you know, before we actually pulled it out, but you know, why do things that make sense? I gotta say, I'm very impressed with the serviceability of the chicken truck. That was a super easy engine to pull. So obviously our firewall modifications that we did were a total success. You can pull the engine out, you can, you know, diddle around with the valves and things on the top end. No problem. Small victory, but you gotta take your victories when you get them, because most of the time just bombarded with overwhelming, crushing defeat on these types of projects. Speaking of overwhelming, crushing defeat, I feel like now would be a good time to cut the remains of the exhaust off and remove the transmission while the engine is precariously dangling from the rope here. You know, what could go wrong? Check it out, they even painted the transmission bolts and lock washers yellow. There's like six-figure show cars that don't have that attention to detail. Definitely scored big with this truck. Now it's time to remove the front suspension. Very exciting. Before we get too carried away with the front end, I think we're just going to lower the back end down a little bit here. I don't really trust these Princess Auto jack stands when they're fully extended like this. Never had one let go, but don't really ever want to have one let go either. So I'll just drop it down a little bit. So, oh, look at that rust. Oh no. Oh no.
We'll just use the most rotten part of the frame to support the truck. It'll be fine.
Front leaf springs actually aren't in too bad a shape. I'll use that for something. And these have caster shims on them. I don't know if these trucks came factory with these or not. I can't remember seeing them before, but let me know in the comments if you know. Probably use these on my 36 Chevy, seeing as we're going with the high-tech, you know, independent suspension in this truck here. So for anybody who's getting upset about this frame being cut up, you know, don't be. You know, if it was just one spot like this, yeah, we could fix that, but not when the whole frame is like this. That's just ridiculous. Especially on a truck where they built a couple million of these, so they're not exactly rare. And we have a better frame in the backyard, so like why are we even talking about it? Let's just get to work. All right, well, it's time for everyone's favorite part. It's time to shake hands with danger. What we have here is the frame is mostly dismantled except for the part that is currently under the cab, and I have removed all of the body mount bolts here. And our strategy here is to use this super terrible floor jack and this haphazardously placed bar here, and we're going to lift the frame, and then I'm going to put these jack stands underneath the rocker panels of the cab, and then we're going to drop the frame out, roll it out, finish dismantling it, and in theory the cab will then be separate from the frame. You know, I can't think of anything that could possibly go wrong here. Seems fine. Alright, the back of the cab is somewhat supported. Now we'll do the dangerous part. It'd be a lot less dangerous if I had more jack stands, but they're all holding up junk vehicles, and I'm lazy, so there you go. I think there's that old saying with safety, it's easier to beg for forgiveness than ask permission. Something like that anyways, pretty sure. Oh, there's not much structure there. Okay. Not even that dangerous. I think we're gonna have to reposition our front jack stands here right away though. There's not really any structure under there. Other than that, it's totally fine. Sure. Uh-oh. 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 Here he goes. Well, there you go. Totally dismantled chicken truck. That went surprisingly well. You know, for how rusty the frame and body on this is, like every single bolt, well, except the shock bolts, I guess, came out. So can't really complain about that. But now we got to do a bunch of cleanup because I actually have less room now to work than I did before I took this apart. Hard to believe. So I'm gonna ditch this center section, don't need that. I'm keeping this cross member here and these body mounts, so I didn't feel like knocking out rivets. So I just cut the frame off and deal with that later because I don't need them today. And yeah, obviously the back section of the frame is also scrap. Oh, garbage. Oh wait, better save these. Those are hard to come by. We'll zip these out and then we'll toss it out. Oh, so amazingly well preserved, hey? Leave a comment if you want to see a teardown and damage analysis on this old engine we pulled out. Should probably figure out sooner rather than later whether or not there's anything usable on it before I store it in here for the next 10 years. And then find out that it's junk. There's so much room in here now. Got the cab on my little wheelie cart so we can Isn't that great? Here's the seam on the roof that we have to finish. We got this seam here, weld, 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 lots of welding. Okay, look at that. That's gonna take some work. Yeah, this is basically the whole reason we pulled this cab off, is so we can weld up this roof, you know, without any of the hazards in the way. I mean, other than the shin destroyers on here, but you know, you gotta have a little danger, a little excitement. But yeah, it's going to be way easier, not only for me to weld and hammer this roof back into shape, because it is going to warp really bad when we go to weld it. That's okay though, because you know, we got very comfortable to work on it at this height, and also easier for you to see what's going on, because I don't have to like set the camera up, you know, way up high and do the bird's eye thing. Well, I can still do that, you know, we can still do that, but it's just easier now that it's nice and low down like this. So this is going to be a real treat, not just for me, but for you all as well. Aren't you all excited? That's what's coming up next. Weld up this roof. I'm almost out of welding gas, but that's okay. I'll arc weld it with an old car battery and some jumper cables if we have to. I don't care. We're going to get this roof welded. So I've got everything kind of schemed out here. I can get all the loose ends finished up on this cab while it's off the truck. And by the time we're done doing that, the snow should hopefully be melted. We can get the old parts car, the Pontiac, running, drive it in here, and we'll have enough room for it, hopefully. And then we can start stripping all the parts off that and getting that ready to go for the back section. You know, it's going to be getting, you know, custom things happening to it still. So that'll be exciting. Another very exciting thing that's going to be happening is next week the builders are going to be coming here, and we're going to be putting a 20-foot roof height and extension on, you know, a 20-foot taller door as well. We got to get the ceilings way up in the air, because coming up this summer, some of you know that Cold War Motors channel. Well, that character there, he's going to be driving his forklift 500 kilometers from his place in Alberta over here, and I'm going to be fully restoring that forklift. And in order to restore the forklift, we got to heighten the roof of the garage. And I know what you're saying, well, oh, you must be doing pretty good on YouTube if you can afford to do all these renovations here. Well, no, it's all going on the credit card, but that's okay, because Forklift Collab is going to be so epic that it's going to pay for all of this. I can tell already. I know it will. After years of slogging it out on YouTube for pennies on the dollar, Forklift Collab is going to be, you know, that's going to be our big break. It's going to be what sets us off. I know it. I just have a feeling. So please, everyone, make sure you head over to the Cold War Motors channel on YouTube and let them know that you're excited for Forklift Road Trip and Forklift Restoration Collab coming soon this summer. I think he's going to be leaving any day here, because he's going to have to if he wants to get here by the summer. Alrighty, thanks so much for watching, everyone. And we got lots coming up here. Going to be very busy. Yep. We're going to be relentless content. Just bam, bam, bam. All the content you can handle and more. Things you don't want to see, things you might want to see, and things that don't belong on the internet. All coming soon.